Todd, he's in bits. You forced him to come cruising.
Cruising? What is this, the late 70s?
Oh, come on, the man's just lost his husband and you want him out trolling looking for some sleazy pickup. Sorry. No offence, son.
Oh, don't mind me. It's the most interesting bar chat I've heard in years.
Look, Billy agreed to come, all right? I didn't march him in here in an arm lock. And look about you, it's a mid-market hotel, not a Berlin darkroom. I don't believe it. Julie?
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 346 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that insists come back Brian Packham, hoisted and vomiting over the school governor sitting in the front row of Bessie Street's nativity play. All is forgiven. I'm Gavin.
And I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if a million kidney charities, kidney doctors, and kidney researchers all shouted out in anger all at once. Lots and lots and lots of expletives towards one Coronation Street.
I'm sensing something about kidneys.
Oh dear. I've got a dodgy kidney and I was quite angry.
I don't, and I was furious. Some weeks of this is easier to do than others, isn't it?
This is true. They'd been doing so well lately too.
No, they hadn't. Had they?
No.
They've been doing okay.
Yeah.
Let's say they've been doing okay recently. But I think this...
The fire was shit too.
The fire wasn't great.
No.
Oh, I feel like we're jumping into the corrie far too early. And this week, especially, far too early. So,
Yes.
how have you been otherwise?
Yeah. It was a kind of a rough week for me. I was off-site doing cataloging for an auction.
Kidney talk.
No.
Oh, no, auction talk.
There you go.
Kidney talk comes later.
Yes. Yeah, occasionally, we catalog auctions directly from a house because the people don't want to pay to have Mac and his crew cart their stuff off. So I was at a house cataloging stuff, and you're always kind of taking your life in your hands when you walk into a stranger's basement to find, a terrifying chalkware figurine with black eyes staring endlessly into the abyss, as well as dolls with teeth.
I mean, you say this as if anybody entering our basement would go, yeah, this is fine. All this is fine.
At least
no notes.
our basement is well lit. You see them coming.
I'm glad that's the only discriminating factor between the two things. Excellent.
How about you? How have you been?
I wrote a little Facebook update on my personal Facebook some time ago saying, is everybody's experience writing R code the same, where you write a line, it doesn't work, you have to import a new library, you change the syntax, it still doesn't work, you export the library, you import a new library, you try and write the line again with a new syntax, it still doesn't work. And then you go home at the end of the day and you've written 5 lines of code. And everyone said, yeah, this is exactly what happens when you're writing R. Well, over the last 2 days, I've written 600 lines of good code.
Wow.
In R.
Even I know that's impressive.
Yeah. And AI only wrote a little bit of it.
And I avoided death by doll. Oh, and I also wrote a great ad for our estate sale this weekend, where there are some really nice white cable knit sweaters. And I got a picture of Billy Crystal from When Harry Met Sally, and a picture of Chris Evans.
I can see where this is going.
From Knives Out, and put those pictures together with the pictures of the sweater. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and said, whether you're a Billy Crystal or a Chris Evans, we've got the sweater for you.
Yep.
At our estate sale.
Yep.
Come on down to South Genesee Street in Lansing, Michigan, 10 to 2, and get yourself a sweater. I am a marketing genius.
I guess the proof is in the pudding between 10 and 2 tomorrow. Although, it's all about awareness. Which reminds me,
Yes.
sad news,
Oh, no.
my burgundy cardigan
Oh, yes.
is no more.
Yeah, maybe I need to go and get you one of those white cable knit sweaters.
I don't want a white one, I want a burgundy one like the one that I had.
With a zipper.
Which features in the banner header and all the other bits and bobs that are
And our
associated
cups.
with
And our
the talk
phone
of the street.
cases.
That the photograph of me in that was taken in the Chicago Institute of Art in front of Nighthawks. The photograph of you was taken in.
That wasn't the time we went to see Nighthawks because you were wearing your hockey jersey.
Yeah.
When we went to see Nighthawks.
I've seen Nighthawks several times.
Yes. It's your favorite painting.
Or it was. But anyway, the you in our logos is in the kitchen standing in front of
The cow.
the cow.
Yeah.
So we're both standing in front of art
Yes.
of some nature. So that's a little history piece of the talk of the street that's no more because my raggedy arse elbow went through it after.
That sweater was
Probably
like 20
10.
years old.
Is it 20 years old? No.
It was older than you brought that from Scotland.
No.
Yes.
No, I got that here.
No, you didn't.
Because it's not a brand that you get in Scotland.
No, that came with you.
No, it definitely didn't.
I'm pretty sure it
It
did.
definitely didn't. But it's at least 10 years old.
Because I remember, I don't ever remember you not having that sweater. It's a very gaff sweater.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I got it here.
But no
But I
worries.
think I got it in a thrift store here.
But no worries, folks. Nighthawks and our cow painting still exist.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that woolen Corrie news.
The TV Choice Awards were last week, and I neglected to congratulate Peter Ash on his win for Best Soap Performance. Apologies to him. It was...
Award-winning Peter Ash.
Yes. Yes, he's won a number of awards for this particular appearance.
Multi-award winning
Yes.
Peter Ash.
And I was just really excited about the fact that Alexandra Mardrell was in a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah, we could tell.
Yes. Julie's back!
She's back.
Julie's back. We don't know yet what she's up to, but we do know that Julie actor Katie Kavanaugh's son is Noah Jupe, who starred as Emily Blunt's son in A Quiet Place and Christian Bale's son in Ford versus Ferrari. So they are a very actorly family.
Any excuse to veer Corrie news away from the Corrie part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And talk about Christian Bale.
And other things
Emily
that interest you
Blunt.
more.
I do like both of those movies.
Yeah.
Those are movies we have watched. He's been in things that we haven't watched, but I wanted to make sure there were things that we have watched.
Most actors have been in things that we haven't watched.
Right, yes. But yeah, another Coronation Street actor whose progeny is in Hollywood acting stuff. Who
Hollywood,
was it?
California.
Hollywood, California, where not very many movies are actually filmed anymore.
Do you know what the Los Angeles Angels is in Spanish?
Los Angeles, Angeles.
They're the Angels.
And finally,
Yes, moving on.
Andy Wyman made a guest cameo appearance on Dancing on Ice, acting as DJ and hype man for Sam Astin, while Sam Astin skated to Salt and Peppa's Push It, who says that art is dead. And that's Corrie news.
Art might not be dead, but it's standing on a bridge.
It had like this giant... Andy Wyman was standing on top of this like giant boom box, and Sam Astin and the woman he was skating with were on the two different speaker. It started in the two different speaker parts of the giant boom box.
That's what my nightmares are like.
It was lit with neon. Are your nightmares lit with neon?
Always. plenty of dry ice as well. Well, a seemingly brief Corrie news, but 3 items?
Yeah, it's always 3 items.
Okay. That leads us neatly.
When has it not been 3 items?
I didn't feel like it was 3. I thought you'd be maybe mentioning Carson Tilsledale coming back to the cobbles.
Yeah, I was gonna wait on that. Because I wanted
To the week after it was relevant.
Because I wanted to talk. And also, I found out about that far too late, and I didn't find out in any sort of news article. I found out on Blue Sky because Tom posted it.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Anyway, you've done Corrie news. You've definitely
Yes.
done Corrie news. Oh, that means that it's the feedback section that I like to call everyone's a critic.
Yes.
Stephen writes, just submitted an interlibrary loan request for Melons in Memory.
Aw.
Hopefully there's a copy available. Public service announcement to everyone to use your local library, especially if you're looking for out-of-print, rare or otherwise expensive books.
Well, they made me aware that my piece of shit publisher still has it available on their website, but I haven't seen a royalty check from them since 2012. So maybe don't buy it from them.
Anyway, per the miscarriage of justice, isn't that how Tracy got away with killing Charlie Stubbs? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I think the forensic person was exposed as corrupt or incompetent, so she was retired, and without that evidence, Tracy was released. I also missed D.S. Abney / Fringe, and how she actually believed Yasmin all along. Edit, according to the wiki, her last appearance was investigating ... the floating gun.
Ah, the floating gun.
And Helena, on Days of Our Lives, the character Marlena was possessed by the devil back in the 1990s, and again a few years ago. Ghosts are real, so anything can happen.
Yes. Yes, I still fondly remember that in the 80s, an American soap opera character had a pet chimpanzee and was also abducted by aliens.
It's funny that the chimpanzee is a surprising bit. Then Bob writes, the only person more thankful than me to be rid of Max is little Frankie. I've only been watching the show for a few years. Abby was about to give birth on the side of the road when I started. I've hated Max from the start. Lately they can't decide if he's giving David advice on remaining calm or exploding in anger when the toothpaste runs out. Max is a terrible combination of impulsiveness and stupidity. His obsession with Lauren and Frankie was bizarre and unsettling. Max sweeps up hair in a not too terribly busy beauty salon, and he thinks he's set up to raise a child with an unemployed mother. The whole idea of the Platts raising Frankie was miles beyond stupid to begin with. Max has a criminal record. David has a criminal record. Shona has had a traumatic brain injury. What child services department would even consider them as guardians for an infant? Swimming to Belize would have been easier for Max than babysitting for 30 minutes. Best of luck to the actor. Good riddance to the character. I'm sensing that Bob is not happy with Max.
No. And he makes some excellent points because, especially this week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are moments this week where he doesn't seem to be getting the full picture or conveniently forgetting parts of that picture.
Right, yes. And also, no longer philosopher Max. No longer calm, cool, and collected Max. Now, bursting out with rage Max. In fairness, these are all symptoms of ADHD, which Max has. So maybe the show is just, being correct for once.
English Victoria writes, I listen each week and always have things to say and share, but I never actually get my act together to send them across in time. But I am moved this week by the utter ridiculousness of things. To get in touch, in short, I am so bored of Abby's perpetually traumatised stare and totally predictable flashbacks / hallucinations. Also, is it just me or does Kev's doctor seem ridiculously sparse on detail, reassurance and basic presence? I thought that as well. No slight to either actors, I wonder if they are as aware / frustrated by the limited ranges allowed. I've often thought that. I've been a massive and loyal Corrie fan for as long as I can remember, but I'm fast tuning out with the increasingly ridiculous, boring storylines. Is it just me? I want to love it again. As always, thank you so much for your brilliant pod, lively conversations and interesting and witty observations. Definitely far more engaging than the actual show at the moment.
Oh.
You're both very appreciated. English Victoria. P.S. Thank you so much for your listener who recommended the On the Sofa podcast with Craig, Nick and David, or more accurately, the actors who play them. I picked it up on your recommendation and have been chuckling out loud to their episodes. A great new find. And that was Sharon that pointed that out. English Victoria, meet Sharon British Not Racist.
Yes.
Sharon British Not Racist, meet English Victoria.
Yes.
Yeah, I've wondered that as well, if where the buck really stops with a lot of this stuff, because it's not with the actors, and I really don't think it's with the writers. The writers are writing what they're told to write, but
Well,
because I think we get examples this week of bad storylines written well. It happens on Wednesday.
I would hope that there would be a little bit of pushback, that there'd be one person in the writer's room who says, hey, wait a second. Where's that list of guidelines from the kidney charity? Let's double check this and make sure it's okay for us to write this. One would hope. Unless it's like that meme with like the guy in charge, and then he's like, we have to blah, blah, blah. And there's 3 people, 2 people give immoral suggestions, and then the last one gives a moral suggestion and he's thrown out the window. Is this another meme you haven't seen?
Honestly,
Like
swear
Angry
you just
Goose?
make these up. Lindsay writes, love the podcast. You guys have me laughing so much each week. Thank you very much. Still chuckle at the famous Davids from a couple of weeks ago. I had to wonder what that was. That really was just us trying to remember people who are famous who are called David.
I thought of like a whole bunch more after we were done.
Sure you did. This week, though, I thought Gemma's new mate was going to slap her husband for gifting flowers after breaking a vase. Surely it wasn't just me that saw the irony. Breaking a vase and then getting given flowers.
Yeah.
Looking forward to all the holes you will pick in Carla and Rob's story this week.
Not to mention the hole in Rob's side where he used to have a kidney.
Indeed.
Oh.
Ellen writes about us complaining about the repeated Abby storyline. One could argue that PTSD is repetitive and relentless. However, the writers are living in a world where Carla can get a transplant with a day's notice, so surely they could speed this hallucination storyline up to put Abby out of her misery. I quite agree.
Yes.
Thank you very much to Ellen, to Lindsay, to English Victoria,
And maybe slow down, Carla.
to Bob, and to Stephen for their feedback this week. It's very much appreciated, and it's always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I'll probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. So we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send us your proper mail to The Talk of the Street, PO Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interest of that their brevity. And now we'll podcast for coffee. We are supping at the teat of our own coffees this week,
Oh, no.
which is absolutely fine. I'm drinking one of my last remaining Canada Dries. I haven't ordered any more of these.
Right. And why is that?
I'm converted to the Soda Stream.
Yes, the soda stream that you got for Valentine's Day.
Not because it tastes great, because it doesn't, but it's cheap. And that's me all over. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it and you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And we now have a Patreon site where you can also show us some love. Sign up as a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. And I think that's been happening this month, because this February has been quite a bumper month in terms of the old downloads. So that's quite exciting, isn't it, Helen?
Yes, it is.
Mostly from the UK. Do you know all those Canadian listeners that we lost like 6 months ago?
Well, yes, because they hate Americans now.
They've never come back.
They hate Americans now.
Well,
Rightly so.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please. I mean,
God.
I say yes, please, but
It is a do we have to?
we do.
And it's certainly do we have to.
We do, because I watched this shite, so we might as well talk about it.
I watched it twice and wrote notes,
Yeah.
although quite a bit of the time I was just staring into space. So there may be bits missing.
Yes.
Let's see if we notice.
Like there are bits missing from Rob's side and Kev's pants.
How many hospital scenes did we get? Well, let's find out together, shall we?
It was like General Hospital.
It was like Carry On Doctor.
It was like Grey's Anatomy.
It was like Casualty. Our first storyline this week is Brother, Can You Spare a Kidney? So we get through this immediately.
Thank you.
This bit. On Monday. On Monday, Carla is resting up after major surgery by listening to Bobby prattle on about something. Roy is happy to see her make such good progress, and Bobby is pleased that Rob came through for her. She warns him to call Canny whenever Rob is involved, because you never quite know with Rob.
It's true. Swain.
Meanwhile, apropos of nothing, Swain drops in to see Rob, who is also recovering from his surgery. He's eager for her to live up to her side of the bargain, but she's had a wee change of heart and won't be offering her assistance to him escaping after all.
What the fuck, man? Why are you telling him this? Why are you there? What is your problem? I thought you were a smart character. Where is our smart Swain? What? She's finally getting some, and so her brain flies out the window?
It does happen.
Tell me about it. But seriously, what is going on here? Why on earth would she ever walk in and say, Neener, Neener? Why would you not wait until, I don't know, he's safely back in prison?
The second that she was there, I'm like, what good can possibly come from this?
Yeah, zero.
She's only there to basically say, get it right up you.
Yeah.
Any plans that you had are dead in the water, pal. You're going
Right.
straight back to prison.
Yeah. She would never do that.
I get so this happens so the drama can happen.
Right.
But it's asking us to believe that, like you said, a previously intelligent character is just acting like Bobby would.
She's acting like a dude. She's totally acting like a dude, swinging her dick around. And I am not here for it.
No, I'm not here for that either. It's like intelligence can only belong to, or permanent intelligence can only belong to non-permanent characters. If you're a regular character on the show, you have to have some moments where any common sense or any intelligence you have flies out the window because you have to behave in a non-normal fashion so that they can get a story out of it.
Right. It's ridiculous.
And it sucks
It does suck.
because this was just plain stupid.
It really was.
And her realising after the fact that it was stupid
Doesn't help.
She's a cop. She's thinking 5 moves ahead.
Right.
She should be thinking what good can possibly come from this.
Right.
Or what bad can possibly come from this.
Right.
Because we see what bad could happen
Right.
immediately.
Yeah. Although, surely she didn't imagine that the other prison guard was just going to unlock Rob from his bed instead of calling a nurse in with a bedpan. But we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, we will.
She's come to the conclusion that his recording of her isn't worth much and should just say it was given under duress. Rob is fucking furious about this, and when Swain goes, he retrieves his bum phone that he's keeping nice and safe, just about hidden under his pillow, and he calls that Mandy. There's been a change in plan. So Mandy shows up at Carla's room and, oh God,
What the fuck?
drags drags her off to see Rob, who she initially says he's got a temperature and he wants to see you. And then when Carla's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm just come out of a...
Right.
That's when the gun comes out.
Right, yes, because we haven't had a gun on the show in a long time, which, we did applaud the show for. And I guess they took us applauding the show for not showing a gun as a reason to show a gun again. Would prison guards have guns?
No.
No, not in the UK. Anyway.
Points the gun at Carla's head and tells her that she ain't afraid to use it.
In a hospital.
Yeah, in the hospital, no less.
In a hospital with lots of CCTV everywhere.
And you would imagine lots of machines that Carla's hooked up to.
Right, yes. And yet she apparently, even though she's just got a new kidney, has no IV, is getting no fluids.
No catheter.
Nah, no heart rate thing. No, nothing. Yeah, no, especially there would be a catheter. And let me tell you, that's not an easy thing to pull out.
Really?
Really? Even for a woman, it's not easy to pull out.
Just would imagine they just fall out all the time. No? I've never had one, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I know you'd remember. Especially as someone with a penis. Because it's even more painful for you.
Oh, painful? Excellent.
Yes. Good times.
So, meanwhile, under the pretense of needing a Jimmy Riddle, Rob gets his surly prison guard to unchain him.
Right, yeah. Instead of calling a nurse in with a bedpan, which is what would happen with an actual prisoner handcuffed to a bed.
Later, Bobby is in Nina's rolls. Bobby! And chatting to
Phone!
Roy about Rob. Roy doesn't trust Rob one little bit either. But
He also doesn't trust Rob Roy.
But concedes that people can change this. That's horrible, isn't it?
It is.
But true enough, Rob Roy has changed. He's changed from a man who had a kidney removed in the last couple of days into a man who can easily overpower a prison guard, knock him unconscious, chain him up to the hospital bed, strip him and swap clothes.
Right, after giving his kidney the day before.
I don't know if it was the day before or the weekend after, but it's certainly within a couple of days.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't imagine that he's moving very much.
You remember when I had just a liver biopsy? Mm-hmm. And they said I couldn't lift 5 pounds for 3 days when they just took little bits of my liver out? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you are able to lift a grown man into a bed after having your whole kidney taken out.
That's right. It's had to... The effort required to strip someone.
He's had to undress this man, then dress this man in his Johnny, and then lift this man up and put him in a bed.
And knock him unconscious.
Right, yes. Which I'm assuming happened before he undressed him. One would assume.
This is a very different storyline if it wasn't. Bomb chickawawa. Little prison action going on here. Barely out of breath, Rob makes good his escape somehow.
In a hospital! With lots of CCTV!
Meanwhile, Mandy's managed to get Carla out of the hospital in
with
a car.
Lots of CCTV! With having to pass nurses and doctors, a few of whom one would assume are aware of Carla and her case and the fact that she's just got a new kidney. What is going on?
We'll get through this. We need to get through this.
Will we get through this?
I just want it to be Saturday.
I'm not sure.
Meanwhile, Carla's been taken to an abandoned office building on an industrial estate in the vicinity of Gunpoint Docks, I imagine. Carla's desperate to go back to hospital for her anti-rejection drugs. Mandy, though, takes Carla's phone and texts Swain to get to the hospital, but signs it off Carla, which was weird.
Yeah.
So when Swain gets to the hospital car park, Rob jumps into her car and demands $5,000 from her. Swain isn't going to do anything until she sees that Carla is all right. Meanwhile, Carla and Mandy are getting to know each other, and Carla thinks it's hilarious that Mandy thinks she and Rob are in love. And Mandy tells Carla about the deal that Swain made with Rob, and that shuts Carla up for a minute.
A little bit.
Also, it turns out, obviously, that Mandy is pregnant.
Of course. Where did they have sex in that prison where nobody saw them?
And when? I still want to know if they were in cahoots at the time of the hostage situation, because it seemed like they weren't.
Right. And also, you'd think that she would be very, very angry if she was, one would assume, already pregnant at that time, because it's only been, 2 weeks?
Hasn't been long, maybe a month.
Yeah. So she's barely pregnant and would be barely aware at this point that she was pregnant.
Unless they were having relations prior to that hostage thing.
But one would think if she was already aware that she was pregnant during that whole hostage thing, that she would be very angry at Rob for putting her and their unborn child in danger.
Meanwhile,
From Deck, right? Not Ant. It's Deck.
it was Little Dick. Yeah.
Yes, it was Little Deck.
Meanwhile, the hospital have finally noticed that Carla's gone missing, and they and they decide to phone Bobby. Bobby, phone! Just as
Bobby,
Ryan
phone! Have
comes
you
in-
seen your auntie?
comes in to tell him that he's heard that Rob's done a runner. I wonder if these two things are related, Bobby seems to say. At the parking lot of the abandoned office building at Gunpoint Docks, Rob notices that Swain has been calling Kit all this time. Again,
No.
Swallow apparently doesn't know that you can have a call running in the background and kind of hide it so it's not as obvious.
Right.
So, again, big brain on Swain there.
No, he's just given her phone back to do the bank exchange, and that's when she calls Kit.
Oh.
And then she starts asking very obvious questions that gets Rob very suspicious that maybe she's on a phone call, which one would think that a trained police detective would be better at making that maybe not quite so obvious.
All she has to do is ping Kit her location.
Yeah.
That's all she has to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, he bludgeons her into unconsciousness and then smashes her phone before waddling into the building.
And also smashes her some more after knocking her unconscious.
Yeah, a bit too much.
A bit too much. Yeah, especially for a man who just lost a kidney.
Rob, who never did get the money out of Swain, comes in under the impression that Carla was in on Swain's plan. He takes Carla's bank card and he and Mandy go to leave, promising to call Carla an ambulance. Carla?
You're an ambulance.
Carla doesn't think this is much of a plan that Rob has and wonders how far they'll get with the 200 quid that they'll be able to take out now that Mandy's knocked up. This is news to Rob,
Yes.
who decides to argue about this here and now,
Right.
demanding that Mandy gets an abortion.
Here and now.
Mandy doesn't want an abortion though, and wants to start a family with Rob. Rob kicks Carla and then slaps Mandy, and she finally realises that Rob's a bit of a twat after all, and she fucks off. She just walks out.
This whole conversation she has with Carla, it's like, you know he was in there for murdering a woman, right? You know that, right? They don't just lock guys up for nothing. I mean, they do, but not usually white guys.
So political, Helen. Carla insists that
Tell
Rob...
me I'm wrong.
Did I say that?
No.
Carla insists that Rob should give himself up, but he would rather die than go back to prison, and he intends on taking Swain hostage. That is, if she's still alive, he says. Carla is furious, launches herself at Rob.
Even though she just got a new kidney and is probably very, very infected and near death because she hasn't gotten her drugs and is also... anyway. She's able to knock him.
Carla is furious and launches herself at Rob, which sends him running down the stairs,
And then over
bumping into the wall, staggering back, tripping over the railing, and falling down like a flight of stairs,
2 flights.
where he falls to his death, maybe, just as Swain comes in. "Oh, Carla," says Swain, "what have you done?" Would that be the first thing that she said?
No.
Okay, just checking. On Tuesday, which is the same day,
Right.
Swain bags up the gun and oh, well, no, wait a minute. Wait, what
She's got gloves and a bag.
Wait a minute, what am I doing? We need to talk about Rob's fall.
What the hell was that?
Coronation Street, and maybe its most misguided, posted a behind the scenes of the fall.
They
Where-
did not.
They did. Where I was shocked to find that that was a stuntman. Because that to me looked all the world like a mannequin that they just dressed up as Rob that somebody had thrown over the railing.
Like the one of Sarah getting hit by the...
And one of Audrey. Yes, the exact same mannequin.
They just keep dressing that mannequin up. They're getting their money's worth.
But no, that was a stunt person who did that. And the way that Corrie posted that made it sound like they were quite pleased with how that had turned out. I'm like, this
What is wrong with you people?
fucking bollocks.
It's so stupid.
Why? She pushes him into the wall.
Right.
He bounces off the wall.
Right.
And
down the
what?
stairs,
Well, down the A
Down the stairs.
over the railing.
into the wall, and then ricochets off the wall into the railing and then over the railing. On our other podcast this week, I had the chance to mention the horrible fake baby in American Sniper.
You did.
The horrible fake baby in American Sniper was more realistic than this fall.
Oh, easily. So, Swain's got her gloves on and she's bagging up the gun and she's checking
does she
for...
just carry
We must get
evidence
through this.
bags and gloves with her wherever she goes?
Of course, because now she's a policewoman. She checks for a pulse but declares Rob dead. Between Swain and Carla, they've just about enough energy to get to their car as Kit arrives on the scene. Swain
Even
tells
though
him...
Swain has head wound of the week and jam just pouring out of her hair.
She does. She tells Kit that Rob felt his death but doesn't mention Carla's involvement. He wants to check out Rob's dead body for himself, but Swain insists that getting Carla back to the hospital is the number one concern.
And as it should be.
And
It should be. She just got a new kidney.
In the building, though, Rob has either come back to life or is a ghost.
Somehow, Palpatine survived.
We're at a different hospital now.
Is it a different hospital?
It's a different hospital.
How is it a different hospital?
You can tell because it's a slightly different colour and it hasn't got Weatherfield written anywhere on it.
Ah.
Swain hasn't been seen, but seems to have recovered well from being twatted severely about the head.
Right.
Bobby, Roy, Ryan and Betsy arrive as Swain is finally taken away to be looked at. Bobby is super concerned about his dad. No one else is.
No.
Ryan politely tells Bobby to shut his fucking yapper about Rob. Later, it seems that Carla has an infection and is on antibiotics, but this means that the new kidney is more likely to fail. Ryan blames Rob and Bobby for all this until Roy urges calm. Back at the factory, Kit is impressed at the... Back at the factory?
Back to the factory.
Back at the industrial estate, Kit is impressed that the cops have already taken Swain's car away, but Tinker confirmed that it was never there. He tells Kit that Rob is gone and reckons he's fucked off in Swain's Citroen.
Tinker gets on the phone, gets on the mic and says, "Hey guys, he didn't make off on foot after all."
If I saw the funny bit.
The whole thing is just so fucking stupid.
Yep.
They didn't see the tire tracks.
Oh, nobody's looking for tyre tracks.
No, because there's far too many
Well,
cop.
and they're not in a field.
There's far too many cop cars there. They probably covered the freaking tire tracks. Didn't they know that Swain's car was there? Didn't I would imagine Kit, when he called this in, said that Swain's car was there and also a dead body. They weren't surprised that a dead body got up and walked away.
Let's just be thankful that Tinker was aware that a crime had been committed. So
There's no blood on the floor.
So Kit
He
goes
was
to the...
oozing blood from his head and his kidney.
Oh, that was another thing that Swain noticed, that he was bleeding
From
his wound.
Yes.
On his, so his shirt was all jammy.
Right, so like his stitches popped,
Yep.
obviously, because he fell 2 flights of stairs and landed on a heavy, hard surface,
Yep.
which would probably kill you if they've just taken your kidney out.
So Kit goes to the other hospital and takes Swain in for her statement. Swain explains what happened, but Kit is keen to explore the possibility that Rob had something on Swain, and she deliberately allowed him to escape by insisting that he was dead and not allowing Kit to check. Swain is affronted and insists that she didn't find a pulse but admits that she was panicking and might have got it wrong. Plus, it's preposterous to think that she got herself knocked the fuck out or risked Carla's life. Meanwhile, Rob realises that his car has been reported stolen because he's listening to the police radio.
Right, yes, in Swain's car.
So he screams for a bit and then abandons it near where Stephen disposed of Leo's body.
And
Carla-
also a bunch of porta potties for some reason.
Carla's responding well to antibiotics, again rather quickly, but confirms that Rob was behind all this. Yes, but is he all right, says Bobby. Oh, fucking shut up, Bobby.
Seriously, Bobby, read the room, dude.
Meanwhile, PC Tinker has found Rob's burner phone at the scene and has found an interesting voice note on it. And while this is happening, Swain is back at Carla's bedside, apologising for causing all this. Carla's too out of her tits to care and is more concerned that she killed her brother. Oh yeah, about that, says Swain. He's on the run. He isn't dead.
Yes, or his ghost is.
So Carla asks Swain to stay with her forever or something, and Swain says that she's going nowhere. In the pub, Ryan is making his peace with Bobby, who is shady as fuck when he receives a text from Rob asking for help.
Yeah, why, Bobby? Why? This makes no sense.
On Wednesday, early morning outside the tram stop, and Ryan overhears part of a conversation that Bobby's having on his phone with Rob about getting him some money. Bobby quickly plays it down and says that he has to head into town before work. Later, Ryan sees Bobby acting shifty outside the factory.
Yeah, Ryan is not believing anything Bobby says.
No.
He's smart Ryan this week.
Yeah. Inside the factory, despite not working at the factory, Ryan catches Bobby counting money and knows exactly what this is for. Ryan demands to know where and when he was supposed to meet Rob, or he's grassed him up to his Auntie Carla. Meanwhile, at the cop shop, Kit tells Swain that D.I. Costello's wanting a word with her about the recording that they found on Rob's burner bum phone.
That was hilarious too, the whole Craig coming to Kit and saying, oh, we found this burner phone. And then Kit's like, oh, well done. You should do this and this and this. And Craig is like, yeah, I already did that, dumbass. There's a file on your computer. I do know how to do my job. Thank you, sir.
No, he doesn't. Swain sticks to her duress storyline with Kit and later with Costello. Costello suspects Swain is at it but can't prove it. And with Carla and her injuries, it's all a bit murky, favours for favours kind of thing. Costello is keen to get Rob Donovan's side of things, if they can bloody find him. There's a lovely wee scene of Sally visiting Carla and remembering her cancer scare and how the smell of the soap brings it all back. Carla's in another world and
Carla
not
doesn't
really,
hear any of it.
Not really paying attention, but appreciates the visit nonetheless. Then the police arrive looking for a word with Carla, and meanwhile in town, Ryan is hanging around outside some shops when the police arrive, police that he's tipped off. They look for Rob on that side of the street, and when they can't find him, they fuck off, complaining about anonymous tips.
Right, and don't search the porta potties behind Ryan where Rob is hiding.
On the other side of the street, though, Rob watches them leave. Back at the factory, Ryan accuses Bobby of tipping Rob off because he was a no-show, but Bobby denies it and worries that something else might have happened to his dad, which just annoys Ryan even more. So he and Bobby go to visit Carla, and Ryan wastes no time in grassing Bobby up for trying to get money to Rob. Bobby tries to apologise, but Carla's heard enough and throws Bobby out. Swain goes back to visit Carla and tells her that she's in the clear and Carla is due to get home tomorrow, which is good news. And that checks out against all other kidney transplant patients who spent long periods in unheated and unsanitized environments.
Oh,
Swain
for fuck's sake.
apologises for the bother her plan caused. Carla forgives her without a second thought. And meanwhile, Bobby gets a text from Rob calling him a traitor. And finally, that's the end of that storyline for this week.
What the fuck?
This is what they brought Rob Donovan back for? Really?
Seriously.
Kate was right there. Kate's right there.
She's very selfish. But, you know, there are some loose lesbians and bisexual women are hanging around the street. It would have been interesting. Mm-hmm. Kate would get to be the older woman this time around. She could have wooed Asha.
And
Or
Kate
Nina.
probably wouldn't have had an affair with a prison officer.
No,
I mean,
that's
it's,
true.
It's impossible to say that she definitely wouldn't have done that.
I
but
mean,
it's
we
less
have
likely.
all watched that porn at one point or another.
See, you gave me a hard time for for making a joke about prison officer porn earlier on that I've already cut out. I don't know where you begin with this. It's
It's
all the way through this. For
terrible.
every second that this storyline was on, you're thinking, but she's just had an operation, or
He's just had an operation. They've both had operations, and yet he's able to drive a car.
His stitches burst a few moments ago.
He should be bleeding out all over the place. Also, he should be dead.
Oh, 100%.
He should be dead.
He
He should have been dead already, let's be honest.
He shouldn't have been able to overpower the prison guard.
And pick the prison guard up and put him in his bed.
He shouldn't have been able to have his phone under his pillow.
Right, yeah. Where was he hiding that phone beforehand?
Well, that's his bum phone. It lives in him.
Right, yeah. But when you have an operation, you can't have anything sticking in your body. They'll find it. Ask me how I know.
I maybe won't.
It's just...
I don't want this to be 100% medically accurate, and I don't need it to be 100% medically accurate, but when there are so many things that are happening that are completely out with the realms of possibility and common sense,
Yep.
it's just you can't take it seriously.
No.
You can't treat it like it's a drama. You just
No.
treat it like it's a first year film school project
Right.
where some kids have been given a camera and just left to run about amok in an industrial estate somewhere.
Right, and one jumps off a banister
For no reason.
for no reason.
How are we going to end this? Well, I could throw myself over the railing here. That's a brilliant idea. I'll go get a mattress.
Yeah. And then I'll wake up for some reason later on and steal a car and drive away even though my stitches have burst and I'm bleeding out. And also, where does he get that hoodie from?
From I presume the prison officer, but
The prison
he wasn't
officer was
wearing a
not
hoodie
wearing
either.
a hoodie. That's not standard prison uniform.
Isn't it?
A gray hoodie? No. Maybe for the prisoners.
At least it wasn't a burgundy cardigan.
That's true.
I'd have been very jealous if it was.
Yeah, this story is just so terrible and unrealistic. And, you know, we have given this show props for the MND storyline. Rightly so. But for them to show such great care and concern with that particular storyline, where the only ridiculous thing are fireworks that no one can afford, to this monstrosity, when they've already been given flack from the kidney charity. I'm so glad that kidney charity got out ahead of this and said, we were consulted for this. Our concerns were not met.
Well, I think they were consulted for a previous...
No, but they were consulted for this one as well.
Oh, really?
That's what they said. They said we were consulted before and we had concerns before. And then we were consulted for this one. And not only did they not take into consideration our concerns before, they made it even worse. And they were right. This is just, you know, with so many people just out there very desperate for medical care and not being able to get medical care or not being able to get medical care in a timely manner and are easily swayed by television shows. This has got to be very frustrating.
See, I feel it's more, and I said this in my blog last week, for me it's more insidious than that. It's that most rational people will watch this and think it's ridiculous. But somebody will say something along the lines of, well, there's that Carla got her kidney in 24 hours and here I am, I've been waiting for 2 years or whatever, and
Right.
fucking NHS.
Yeah.
And it's just the way that thought process develops.
Absolutely.
It starts off from something ridiculous and fictional and not true and made up. But it all just, I don't know, in this day and age, it feels almost irresponsible to have something as completely outlandish as this.
Yes.
That reflects badly
Absolutely.
on
Well, maybe that's why they were...
people's personal experiences.
Maybe
of
that's
it.
why they're very careful to add in the element that Carla had to get private care for this, so as to not blame the NHS. But I feel like people are still going to blame the NHS, and people are going to have unrealistic expectations for private care as well.
I don't know. Just none of it seems worth it
No.
for the end result.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure what that is, but
No.
to have Rob on the run, Bobby turning out to be a bit of an asshole, or more of an asshole if you never liked him in the first place.
Right. But it's also, they've made Bobby incredibly, incredibly naive. Mm-hmm. Oh, did we talk about Bobby and Betsy's conversation?
I couldn't be bothered writing that down.
Which is, Betsy is the good teenager this week. Because Max is not the good teenager this week. It's Betsy's turn to be understanding and forgive Bobby and be understanding.
And it's got Swain acting out of character as well.
Yeah.
And it's got her up in front of her boss for the second time in probably 2 months.
Right.
Getting questioned as a suspect in something.
Right.
All of which is making me think that she's maybe not going to be drawing her police pension or getting an opportunity to do so. And that's kind of further backed up when Betsy says, can you just not be a police officer anymore?
Right.
So if
And
she's
like,
not DS Swain, then I don't know, what does she do then?
Right, yeah, and that will leave just Kit as the police officer on the street. And that's no fun.
This was a new low.
Yes.
And it was extended over 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 days.
Yeah.
I still think Wednesday was better, but Monday, Tuesday was almost unwatchable.
The fact that Bobby is so naive to think that, oh, well, maybe my dad is good and he just needs help. And it's like, there's no way a rational adult would be this naive, especially one who is aware that his father is in prison because he's a murderer. Mm-hmm. And one who seems to genuinely love and care about his Auntie Carla, who has taken him in. Him and his annoying trumpet. Remember the trumpet? Was it a trumpet?
No, episode 1, it never came back.
No.
Let's all be thankful for that.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to our next storyline, burning down the house.
Burning down the house.
On Monday, David has been walking the streets to do some proper thinking. He's sure Max is facing jail time here.
You can tell because of the steam.
Yeah, and the only way that they can keep him safe from Harvey and his goons is by getting that fucking money off of Nick. At the court later, racist Kelly has joined David and Shona as they await the judge's decision, and the judge denies bail, what with him hiding out at the builder's yard for a day, and so he's held on remand until the trial.
But he turned himself in, and he is not a flight risk.
I'm wondering what the trial is, because he's pleading guilty, I presume.
Right.
He's admitted it.
Right, yeah.
So we jump straight to sentencing then, I think, don't we?
One would think.
David goes to Nick for the money, but Nick has only been able to get $4,000 off it out of the bank. This is Max's death sentence, says David, and he starts smashing up the bistro.
Right, which...
Customers run out with their arms flailing. Ah!
What is going on here? What are those two men yelling about?
David calms down and helps with the tidy up until Shona arrives, and then he storms out. Nick tells her that he thinks David is close to a breakdown. I think we're all close to a breakdown.
It's funny because Shona comes in and she's like, what's going on here? And then it's, what's going on here?
Oh, inside voice. David is back at Sarah's going through all the stuff that that been donated to him to see if there's anything worth selling. Classy. Later, Harvey's goons have mugged David in the street and stolen his wedding ring and chains.
Well, that's what he says.
We won't miss the chains. And then he gets a text from Andy, who presumably is still waiting outside that supermarket ATM. On Tuesday, David meets up with Andy, who's obviously no longer a fan of him or his hairdressing skills. He had another go at David about being a hairdresser,
right,
which is definitely now becoming a thing.
It
that
is
was
a
quite
thing.
funny. David claims that one of Harvey's goons had pulled him out of the car at the last minute ahead of the job that they were supposed to do. Andy doesn't look like he believes him, but then tells him about a new job that could net them a couple of grand. David is keen as mustard and promises not to leave Andy hanging around the supermarket ATM in broad daylight like he did last time. David and Shona visit Max in prison and tell him that they've got a plan to keep him safe by sending him to a prison in Scotland.
Where he will get much better care and probably better food.
Max loses his shit at this. He blames David for his stupidity causing
It's
all
not
of this.
London. What is your problem?
But once again, when David said it's a prison in Scotland and it cuts to Max, and he really should be saying Scotland at that point and doesn't.
No. Or, oh, thank God, Scotland. At least now I'll get a healthy supply of iron brew.
Yes.
In prison.
He blames David for his stupidity causing all of this, except the house fire stuff. Here he was looking forward to starting his new life until David fucked it up, so he'll be hundreds of miles from anyone he knows. He tells David he should have let Harvey and his goons get their revenge. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Right, yes. So Max is not the philosopher teenager this week.
Or the self-aware teenager this week.
No. They've remembered that this kid has ADHD this week. That's what I'm saying. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. But also, dude, it's Scotland. And your dad's trying. And it's
nobody
Scotland.
asked you to burn down the fucking house.
No. Yeah.
It's my main complaint.
Seriously. Yes, this is all David's fault, but you're the one who burned down the house. And also, you're the one who joined a racist gang, which is why you have a previous record. You're the one who encouraged that kid to stab Alia.
Poor Alia.
Poor Alia.
She had a
And you
very
also
terrible 2 weeks.
And you also made her explode. And then she had to wander the streets until Craig found her and brought her home.
Oh, let's not go through all that again.
Oh, dear. Poor Alia.
Yeah,
We're dragging this storyline out
oh, God.
so much. Why did Max not die in the fire?
It
Would have been so easy and so clean. And then they would have found out after he was dead that he's the one who started the fire. And that would be really dramatic and tragic. And everybody would be sad all over again.
I guess they're keeping the door open for him coming back if he wants to, but yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a show for him to come back to?
Well, that's a completely different question. But yeah, this was Billy and Paul's special day all over again, where Paul should have died during that at the emotional height that got to.
Yep.
And Max really should have died in the fire.
He really should have.
Because none of this is getting us to the end of where Harvey somehow is finally paid off.
Right.
And this storyline can go away.
Right.
None of this is getting us any closer to that.
Nope.
Whether Max is in Scotland or in
Not.
prison or dead.
Yeah.
Oh, it just feels like they're in a complete hole with this.
Yeah. Yeah. One might even say a sinkhole in the backyard.
Do you know what I end up questioning? It's things like last week where Nick says, "Don't worry, I'll get you the money."
Right. Yeah, I will max out all of my credit cards. I will do whatever I need to do to get you the money. Just don't do this, being a getaway driver anymore.
A serious sentence that was actually said out loud.
Yes.
But
And
then
now this week,
this week-
oh, well, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't have enough credit cards to max out. Why make a promise like that if you can't fulfill it the very next week?
And nobody, I don't think, is blaming the real culprit here in all of this. Bethany. This is all Bethany's fault.
It is all Bethany's fault. But she's left. She's in that London now.
If she had, she was just left to leave.
Right, yeah.
Nobody calling her out for all this carnage that she's caused.
No?
Somebody did mention it in the past, and Sarah was very quick to shut
Right.
that down.
Yeah.
This isn't Bethany's fault.
No, it's not her fault that she has low self-esteem because she was groomed. And also, I'm her mom.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, we can all concede that she couldn't possibly have seen these consequences.
No.
When she agreed to get a little bit of a nip and tuck
Right.
in Turkey.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't negate the fact that went wrong. She had horrendous hospital bills that she had to take care of. So Gail had to sell the house. So David becomes worried about where they're going to stay. So David steals the money.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it goes back to Bethany.
Yeah.
If you wanted, you could blame Debbie. Debbie for giving that job to Bethany in the first place.
It's true. Out of the kindness of her own heart.
But I'm inclined to blame Bethany for it.
I mean, I'm sure we could go back even further if we really thought about it. It's probably Daniel's fault. In the long
I'm not
run.
sure how, but yes. Or Ray Weinstein's fault.
Right, yeah. Because it was Daniel who encouraged Bethany to become a writer in the first place. He was the one who encouraged her to write that story about the whole grooming thing. It's all
Yeah.
Daniel's fault. And that convinced her that she could be like an actual writer who got paid and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then she couldn't, and she was depressed. And so Debbie very nicely gave her this job.
Yeah, let's just blame Bethany. It's easier.
No, it's Daniel's fault.
I do enjoy seeing Harvey and his goons. And it pleased me when David said goons this week as well.
Yes.
But it's nowhere near giving me enough joy to make me sit through this.
No, especially not after the whole Carla kidney shite.
Yeah, well, here's another storyline that was on during the Carla kidney shite stuff.
Yeah.
Cheggers and Geggers. On Monday. It's a quiet day at the Quad House and Gemma's wig fancies her whole, but they're disturbed when Lou and Mick show up to introduce Mick to Chesney and to Gemma.
And
And to Gemma's wig.
and to get Chesney to come and help move a sofa.
And to tell them that they're moving into their new house today, so Mick immediately asks Chesney to help with the move, while Lou and Gemma's wig get fucked on cider. After the shift, it turns out Mick has broken Lou's dead nan's vase or something, and he asks Chesney to take the rap. Chesney refuses and says the truth is the way to go, so Mick tells Lou that Chesney broke the vase. Did I fuck? It was you, says Chesney. And Lou goes fucking Raj and calls Mick a waste of space. That's the final straw for Mick, and he storms out. Later, it seems Lou is upset that Mick has been good to his word, and Gemma's wig thinks that this is a situation that Chesney should get involved in, and he should convince Mick, a man he doesn't know, to go back to his awful, awful wife that he also doesn't know. So, Chesney meets Mick in the pub and tells him to say he's sorry with flowers. Mick thinks this is a great idea and borrows a tenner off a Ches for the flowers. That was quite funny.
That was funny.
Back at the Quad House, the flowers go down a treat, and Lou and Mick make up by getting all hot and heavy in the living room, while Gemma's wig gets off on watching.
Right. Yeah, they have sex in Chesney and Gemma's house.
That's
On
what
the
it seems.
couch.
That's what it seems to
They
be
had
happening.
sex on Gemma's couch. And Gemma and Chesney just very discreetly go and hide in the kitchen instead of saying,
Oi.
hey, stop having sex in my house. Go
Go
have
home
sex
and
in
do
your
that."
own house. Which is what a normal person would do.
What I would have loved, though, is when they started to get hot and heavy and Gemma's wig's looking on, if the camera had cut to Chesney's enormous fridge and some of that ice had just fallen out of it. A missed opportunity, I feel.
Would you say that the fridge would have a premature ejaculation?
That's where I was going without saying it.
Yes. You're welcome.
Or it was just pleasing itself while it watched.
Oh, dear.
Chesney's enormous fridge.
I was kind of hoping that it would be Joseph and the Quads this week who walk in on adults having sex.
Well, imagine if they'd walked in on this complete strangers.
Strangers are having sex on their couch.
On Tuesday.
Imagine having to explain that in BSL.
I think I know that. Okay. On Tuesday, remember, on Tuesday's the same day, Mick and Lou have finished getting their hole, so Mick finishes off the rest of Chesney's beer.
Right, yeah. And then they're dancing in their living room for some reason. They have sex and then they start dancing to like 80s music.
There's somewhere
What is going on?
that Mick recognises Chesney from and eventually suggests it was from a stall in the market. So Chesney and Mick reminisce about the market in Big Garth. But when he and Lou leave, Mick reveals that he didn't know Chesney from the market at all. He saw him from a picture that's in the lavvy. And he confirms that he knows it was Chesney who put sugar in his tank, mutters about all the work that he's lost
But not like that.
as a result, and how he'll get his revenge in this world or the next. Lou just wants a quiet life and doesn't know why Mick enjoys winding people up like that.
Right, plus she likes Gemma for some reason.
Later, Mick's got his music at full blast, so George goes to the gunnel to tell him to shut the fuck up.
In his robe.
And Chesney, for some reason, has turned up to get involved in this as well and takes George's side.
And it's hilarious because Chesney is so very short next to George.
So Mick
He's so tooty.
takes to calling Chesney Cheggers, and I'm all here for that. And he promises to turn it down.
Right, and then George explains to them about a Wiccan funeral? Was it Wiccans?
Oh, who cares?
Or no, they were Druids. And they have funerals at midnight for some reason. And George got lost in the woods. And it's like, is he helping Druids illegally bury bodies in the woods? What is going on here?
Chesney,
Do these people know what Druids are writing the show?
do they know what funerals are? Chesney says something about keeping a neighbour sweet and then fucks off. Later, Mick and Lou take a case of beer to Chesney and Mick arranges a play date with Cheggers tomorrow. Then he and his missus play Chapdoor Run on poor George.
Who's still in his robe.
And that's as far as
also
we get
a
with that
sleep
this week.
mask. George has a sleep mask. It's so cute.
What do you think of Mick and Lou?
Yeah, I'm already tired.
I'm going to have an unpopular opinion.
I miss Courtney boobs.
No, I don't. But I kind of like how Mick is just noising Chesney up. I'm taking a bit of pleasure from that.
But that's just because you hate Chesney.
Well,
not
sure.
because you like Mick.
Yeah, absolutely. Mick would be just a horrible, horrible person to have living next to you, or near you,
Or behind you.
or in the same town.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, we would never allow people we've just met to have sex in our living room. For one thing, our dog would not allow people we've just met to have sex in our living room.
I dread to think what Dobby would do in that situation.
He would say, bork, 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 bork.
Does Lou look like Art the Clown, though? She does a bit, right? I'm not saying that as a woman, Lou looks like a serial killer.
Women
Or-
can be serial killers.
And I'm not saying that she does, but I'm saying the way that the eyebrows are and the things that she does with her mouth. She's got a very exaggerated mouth.
She doesn't have the nose of Art the Clown.
She doesn't. And she doesn't have the little hat. But
It's true, she doesn't have the little hat.
but there was a similarity there.
Does it feel like Lou and Mick are unbelievable as a couple?
No, I believe it.
There's something about the two of them. I don't know. I think it's Mick that I don't believe. He looks too clean to be the neighbor from hell. You know, you expect the neighbor from hell to be not quite so clean. And to
I'm not
maybe be
sure.
a little bit more hairy and schlubby.
I'm not sure I agree, but
Maybe a little bit of a belly. I don't know. They don't seem right together.
he did have a very exaggerated response to Lou's anger. Although she did kind of assault him, I guess. Did she assault him?
No, she just said that he was a fucking idiot.
That's right. So she verbally abused him, and he took it to heart very quickly.
Did he though?
Yeah, he did.
You don't think that whole thing was a put on? You don't think that they, completely made that up to steal $10 from Chesney?
No, No, I don't think so. But I do believe that this happens quite a lot in the relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen an awful lot of hate for them. Like, people have very little time for the new couple.
Yeah.
But people very frequently don't have time for new couples.
Well, especially in a climate where they're letting people go because there's just not enough storylines to go around for the people who already belong to the show and who we already like and are aware of and are comfortable with.
I think it's about high time that we found out who lived on the other side of the ginnel. I like that.
I guess.
It does give Chesney and Gemma something to do that isn't entirely money related, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not hating it quite as much as other people. And I've seen comments where it was very negatively looked upon because it interrupted the Carla storyline. But I was really looking for any excuse to interrupt that.
Seriously.
Steaming
Pile of shit.
that whole dumpster fire. So I didn't really hate this as much as other people did, but I think I'm putting an awful lot of my positivity on Cheggers, on the nickname Cheggers.
Right, and at least it kind of feels like this
kind
whole
of makes
van.
me laugh.
And it also, it's kind of nice that it feels like this whole van thing is finally paying off.
Yeah, we'll finally get somewhere.
Yes.
But Chesney should know that that's who that is.
Right, yeah, he's got, where are they parking this van?
It was outside the house. We saw it outside their house.
Right, yeah.
And Chesney's van radar, for some
Right.
reason, wasn't working.
Yeah. What's up with that?
We'll move on. Our next storyline sucks to be a Webster. On Monday, it's Kev's big operation today. He wants to get away on holiday to the sun after all this is done. Debbie comes to pick him up. Jack is notably not there. He's in Nina's Rolls looking up testicular cancer on his phone. So Kev's getting ready for surgery, but Abby is on the edge, made worse by the fact that Jack isn't there. Kev tells her to go off and clear her head, and he'll text her when he has news. Abby doesn't wait to be told twice. And back home, Abby gives Jack a piece of her mind for dodging his dad. It turns out Jack is too upset and worried about Kev. Abby admits how scared she is too, but says that he has to face up to it. So the two of them head back to the hospital and get there just as Kev is about to go for his operation, while Abby quietly has yet another flashback. So on Tuesday, Abby's having another flashback, or is really bored as she, Debbie, and Jack wait on news about Kev.
Yeah, they're audio flashbacks though, so it's not quite as annoying.
Debbie thinks she should go home and spend time with Alfie, who is with people unknown at the moment.
Right, yes.
Sitting in the hospital is obviously killing her, so it's Jack and Debbie that go see Kev, who has come out of the surgery, and it's been a success. Debbie can't hide her relief, then explains why she sent Abby home, but Abby hasn't gone home. She's on a bench outside the hospital having more flashbacks. She sees a body on a gurney, and when she lifts the blanket, it's Seb.
Covered in jam.
She breaks down again, and it's a passing Asha who comforts her, noticing that Seb really isn't lying dead on the gurney like Michael Myers at all.
Right, yes, because they would never leave a dead body on a gurney outside the hospital like that.
I was so worried that Abby was looking at
An actual dead body.
Well, not an actual dead body, but you know what I mean. A dead extra or whatever. Just lying out on the street or in the car park, left unattended.
They just forgot to bring... But...
The fact that the stretcher with a sheet was left unattended was kind of surprising
was
as well.
very weird. It's like, why did they just leave this gurney just like standing there? Why didn't they just wheel it in or shove it back in the ambulance?
Right.
Why is it just sitting there?
Right.
Just so people can have hallucinations.
That's certainly what it seems like. Back in the hospital, the doc is happy about how the operation went, so Kev can get home tomorrow. Debbie notices missed calls from Abby, so while Kev and Jack chat about going on holiday in the sun, Debbie hurriedly goes off to get Abby. When she finds her, Asha explains the situation. It was a big flashback, the worst one yet. Although at this point it really is hard to pick and choose. Debbie takes her home, which is where she should have been in the first place. Much later, Debbie tells Kev about the latest Abby episode, and he immediately wants to go home to look after her, but Debbie would like to see him try. Tells him to stay put, and confirms that she's signed Abby up for a private therapist.
Yes.
So on Wednesday, all Debbie can think about is testicles when Sally and Tim come in to cheer up the patient and get all their ball gags out. Tim loves a ball gag, as Sally well knows.
Do you think she uses
Wake up the gimp, or wake up the timp.
Do you think she uses the same? She uses the same ball gag on Tim that she used on Kev. Do you think it's the same one?
Do you think she has more than one?
I would.
Is that the sort of thing that people have multiple?
Well, one would think that maybe she would have thrown away the one that she used with Kev when they broke up. Because why would you want that lying around reminding you of the good times?
Indeed.
Also, if there's ever a character that really needs a ball gag, it's Kev.
Yeah, not for anything kinky, just
Just to shut him the fuck up.
yeah, just always. Kev tells him that he should get the results back next week, and then it's off to Barca with Jack. Huzzah. Meanwhile, Abby's at her therapist session, and it turns out the patient her therapist sees before her is Roy.
Yes, who can also afford private therapy.
Well, you know, the therapist probably works both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
So Roy looks a bit flustered, but she's just pleased to see a friendly face. Roy hangs around for Abby to come out of her session to offer his support, and Abby is so overwhelmed she gives him a hug, and Roy is very uncomfortable at this. They chat about their experiences with therapy, and Roy explains how his time in prison has affected him, and how much he misses Haley and the little balls of tissue that used to fall out of her sleeves. Talking about this sort of thing has been a huge help to Roy, and this inspires Abby to pledge to keep at the therapy herself. So she goes home and tells Kev about her decision, and he approves, claiming that they both look after each other, except for the times that he tells her that she's sunk to a new low. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
So I'm imagining that the results of the test are not going to be good news.
Probably not. Because the doctor's like, oh, well, and we're just going to do a scan to make sure we got all of it. And poor Jack is like, wait, what? There's more? And the doctor's like, no. This is just to be on the safe side. I'm sure we got it all. Which means that they absolutely didn't get it all.
Because it's over and done with very quickly.
Yes.
If that's it. Now, the commentary that I've seen about this is mostly positive.
Yeah.
But what I've seen in a kind of complaining nature was that they seem to be treating the testicular cancer like
As
a joke. And I can see both sides of this.
Yeah.
Because I think there have been a few too many
Ball jokes.
But I think that by treating it this way, like it's no big deal,
Right.
maybe has a good effect of people or men
Being willing to do self-checks and go to their doctor when they find a lump.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they're treating it like it's, you know, not this massive, huge big deal that makes it a scarier thing.
Well, it kind of feels like they are making a big enough deal about it, and that the jokes are kind of brought in to kind of add some levity and to relax Kev, which I feel like you would make jokes at a time like this. I have been at many bedsides in hospitals making jokes. Like that time my mother was run over by a farm cart during a 4th of July parade.
Always funny.
And when we got to the hospital to see how she was doing, she was singing, Grandma got run over by a reindeer, only Grandma got run over by a farm truck. So...
What on earth did she rhyme with truck? Who knows?
Who knows?
I think, I think that's it. I think you wait for the patient
Right.
to make a light-hearted comment about it.
Kev was kind of making well, he was making jokes with Jack about balls.
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's more putting everybody at ease about this the patient and the people that are there.
Right.
And maybe that has a positive effect. But I can't see the point that it was maybe a little too much.
I feel like if we see Kev waking up and his family's around him and stuff, and they're making lighthearted jokes, that's one thing. If we cut away to the Rovers and there are people like hanging on to the bar drinking, and somebody comes in and says, oh, well, that's Kev out of surgery now. And then people at the Rovers, with Kev not being there, start to make ball jokes. That would have been inappropriate. There's a balance.
The comment further went on to say that they didn't see that people would be making the same sort of comments if it had been a woman with breast cancer.
Oh, trust me.
And I don't think that's true.
No, it's not true at all, because...
I think there would have been boob jokes.
Yeah.
Maybe not as many.
Right. And I mean, we've talked about my colon jokes.
Let's not. Let's get through one podcast where that isn't mentioned. The scenes with Roy I quite liked.
Yes, me too.
And you don't see a huge amount of that softer side of Roy where he talks about his feelings like that.
Right, yeah.
And he really was opening himself up to Abby in an attempt to help her, which was very positive of him.
Absolutely. And it was nice to kind of see that the beard may be gone, but Roy is still dealing with emotions pertaining to that time that he was locked up for supposedly murdering someone and getting all of that hate and stuff. And it's nice that the show is acknowledging that, oh, maybe he would still have feelings about that and would be in need of therapy. And it's totally believable that he wouldn't make a big deal of it and wouldn't talk about it necessarily to people, but can see why being open and talking to Abby about it helps him and her.
Yeah. She didn't really give him a choice in the matter, which I thought was appropriate as well.
Well,
it was, you're going to talk to me now.
Right. But he was the one who made the choice to stay there for the whole hour waiting for her to get done, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah.
She walks out and she's like, what are you still doing here? And that's a totally Roy thing to do.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, 100%.
It's nice when they write characters in ways that accurately present that character's character.
Character squared, yeah.
Yes.
And it's always nice talking about Haley, and it's always nice thinking about little bits of tissue that she's got from wiping her nose and she's just stuffed up her sleeve, because that's where people keep those things.
Well, some people.
Some people. Certainly people I know. So I can absolutely see if it was like the Sally comment in Carla's bedside when she's talking about the smells and how the smells of the soap are triggering memories for her. It's that sort of thing, and the memory of the scrunched up tissues definitely bring back memories. All right, we'll move on to our next three storylines, which are just scenes from Wednesday. The first one is Vallies of the Ken doll. On Wednesday at number 1, let's all remember that Cassie is now staying at number 1, and she takes delivery of 2 air fryers. She hides one and takes another one to show Ken, who has no memory of ordering it.
Do we know that the other box has an air fryer in it?
Yeah, because she sells it immediately afterwards.
Oh, is that what she was doing? I thought she was buying something else.
No. Steve is keen to give it a test run while Ken worries about his memory. Steve has fancy plans for cooking dinner for Cassie with the new air fryer and nips off to get some paprika. Well, I hope he's talking about the spice. While Cassie has already sold the extra air fryer on Corrie's version of eBay, whatever that is. Everything's coming up Cassie. Later though, as she's drugging Ken's tea, Steve sneaks up on her to give her a cheeky goose, and she quickly covers and hides the bottle and then distracts Steve by offering up her hole on a plate. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Oh, and then Steve uses the air fryer, and whatever he cooked in the air fryer was not a success.
Excellent.
Yes. You'll find out later why I mentioned this.
Again, it's another storyline that I'm just sick and tired of.
Yeah. These people are aware of what Cassie is doing.
Are
Why?
they?
Why has nobody searched that kitchen for something suspicious like dog antibiotics or whatever it is she's putting in the tea?
It's antihistamines.
Right. Yeah, but something that should not be in that house, which no longer has a dog.
Is that why you have antihistamines?
Weren't they dog antihistamines? And somebody write in and say that those are the antihistamines she gives to her dog?
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway, and still, you'd think after the whole this is happening, that somebody would check that kitchen. Or would be watching her like a hawk.
I need my memory jogged here, because where I remember the story getting a little interesting several weeks ago was when Bertie
Yes.
caught Cassie,
Right.
and Cassie said, "This is our secret," and Bertie said, "Fuck that," and told
Daisy.
who told
Daniel. Who told Adam and Tracy.
But then Daniel confronted Cassie about it,
Right.
and Cassie said, "If you don't keep your mouth shut about that, I'm going to tell everyone that you were the one that knocked up Daisy."
And everybody knows that already.
And everyone knows that. But that happened. And Daniel kind of seems to have forgotten that he was blackmailed into keeping his mouth shut.
Right.
Which is surely, if not exactly a red flag, is a very deep orange.
Yes.
But that doesn't seem to be a thing.
No.
The suspicions that had
Not
been
yet.
nurtured a few weeks ago have been allowed to just dissipate.
Die. Yeah. Like I said, nobody is pushing this further. Nobody is going through that kitchen to see if they can find something that she would be putting in Ken's tea.
And Cassie used to be looking kind of remorseful as she was doing this.
Right. But now,
not so much
not anymore. No.
So as she's holding his hand as he's worried about his memory,
Yeah.
it becomes even more horrid what
Sinister.
she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sinister.
Yeah.
Our next storyline is the Weatherfield darkroom. This brought me quite a bit of joy, I have to say. On Wednesday at the cab office, Todd walks in on George and Eileen getting their hole in the cab office.
Yes.
So nobody's having sex in their own house anymore.
No. That's boring.
Todd's back. Eileen's back. George is back. They're all back. Todd nips off to the pub to complain to Bernie and Billy, and Debbie overhears this and points Todd in the direction of her afternoon tea dance that she's having at the Rape Hotel.
Right. Where you could get some afternoon delight with your tea.
Todd is well versed in such things from Miami and is keen to give it a go, and
Which-
talks a reluctant Billy into being his wine man of sorts.
Which is hilarious as someone who lived, albeit briefly, in Miami, to think that they're having afternoon tea dances in Miami.
Apparently they're a big thing in the US. I haven't seen any. I'm
No.
probably looking in the wrong places. I'm not looking anywhere. But if I am, it's the wrong places.
Yeah.
At the Rape Hotel, the afternoon tea dance is a gay meat market, and when a couple of blokes show interest, Billy panics and runs off. Todd, though, manages to make some...
And Todd says, he's a vicar.
And everyone just goes, oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Todd manages to make some headway with a mustachioed gay man that's interrupted when George arrives to give him a
Wearing a
telling
black
off
and white striped sweater.
for upsetting Billy. Todd explains that it's a rape hotel, not a Berlin darkroom, which seems to pique the interest of Todd's companion. But then he sees Julie Carp just walk by. It's Julie fucking Carp. So Todd, Julie, Debbie and George all sit and have a drink together. Todd is keen to call Eileen and get her along, but Julie puts him off, saying that she has a busy day tomorrow. She's already a little tipsy and she wants to have some special time set aside for that. So they talk about Gail marrying Jesse and getting a hole off of Brian Packham. I don't catch what Julie's in town for other than a supposed business meeting. At the Rovers, Billy's feeling guilty about the bloke offering to buy him a drink, Bernard tells him to get over himself and reckons that Paul would be happy that Billy was getting on with his life.
Can you imagine? He offered to buy me a drink.
Yeah, and he said it like that.
Clutching my
pearls.
pearls. It's like when Paul shoved Mike.
Oh, he shoved Mike.
And then he offered to buy me a drink.
So
Can
later,
you imagine?
Later, the Berkane bloke from earlier is still giving Todd the eye, so Todd goes off to get his hole in a dark room at the rape hotel, while Julie acts a bit dodgy with George every time he mentions Eileen. On her way out, she calls a cab for tomorrow to take her straight to the station.
Right.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
So Julie Carp's back. The
She
much
is.
lauded Julie Carp has been a character that has been often missed from the show.
Yes.
And it was good to see her back. I was a little disappointed that we didn't find out exactly why.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out
we?
eventually.
But did we? Isn't that the first thing that they would talk about? Oh,
No.
what you doing in town?
Yeah, but she's dodgy about that. She just says it's for work.
Oh, what sort of work?
And also, yeah, it's like, this is your nephew. And he didn't know you were in town.
Yeah, nobody knew that she was in town.
Right, yeah. It's like, if you didn't want anybody to know that you were in town, maybe that's not exactly the hotel to book yourself in.
Maybe not. Because she wasn't there for the afternoon tea.
No, she was just walking through the room.
Just walking through the hotel.
Yep. Doot.
Again, if you're trying to keep a low profile from people that you obviously know in the area, maybe you wouldn't be doing that. So, again, just a little curious as to why she's back. But I thought this had... Seldom have I been so pleased to see Todd show up.
Yeah.
Because it reminds you of how good that character is.
Yeah.
And how good Garth is in the role.
Yeah.
And how funny he can make the lines. And how well he's written.
Yes.
The Berlin Darkroom was just such
Yeah,
a
it was
out of the
perfect.
blue line
Yeah.
that just completely cracked me up.
Yes.
And the way that
That whole scene was great.
the way that his partner kind of looked and smiled at the idea of it.
Right, yeah. In
I thought was hugely
This is
funny
the
as
most
well.
amusing conversation I've ever had in one of these.
Because he ends up finding out that Todd saw George and his mum having sex this morning.
Right. Which is hilarious.
At
At
work.
Well, at least it was at Eileen's work and not at George's work.
Oh. Yeesh.
Yeah.
That cab office, though. Have you seen the furniture in that?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God.
Scabby.
They're definitely catching
And the
something.
fact that George comes out and says, I was helping your mom try on her new bra.
And she shouts, "That's not helping."
But it was, you know what? It was nice that the show finally acknowledged that Eileen and George have sex. Because we rarely see them kiss.
We never see them have sex. That's
No.
right. And long may that continue.
Right.
But the last that we really heard of George and Eileen as a couple, it seemed that it wasn't working out between them. There was...
I thought it was when they were like talking about marriage and they both acknowledged that they don't want to get married. That was a nice thing.
There was a Gail and Jesse stuff, and George was getting a little...
Upset that Eileen was so upset about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
And so he wasn't sure where he stood, and they seem to have just forgotten all about that. And that's absolutely fine, because I'm glad that that's not going anywhere. But Eileen is going somewhere.
Right,
and
yeah.
this is probably why Julie's back to
Correct.
help that along. She's such a good character, and I would hope that they manage to keep her on for a little bit longer than that. Who knows? I'm never sure about just bringing characters back just for the member berries of it all, but
Right, yeah, and just to help further along another character's leaving. Because we just did that with Gail and Jesse.
this is Jesse all over again, right?
Yeah.
But if it gives us more of Todd, and good Todd being funny Todd,
Right, yes.
Because these old scenes from
Yeah,
Wednesday
he was
were...
actually funny even with Billy. And, typically Todd and Billy's scenes are depressing and make me cry.
Or make you want to punch me in the throat.
Well, that too.
There's a precedent that's been set. No, this was a highlight for me this week.
And the stuff with Billy was funny too. The Billy's overreaction in the hotel and Todd's timing saying he's a vicar was
it's
funny.
Like, oh my God, go over yourself, Billy.
And then Billy clutching his pearls and telling Kit and Bernie about, can you imagine a man actually offered to buy me a drink? How terrible is that? And they're like, what is wrong with you?
All right, we'll move on to our last storyline tonight is Huda Daddy. On Wednesday, Daisy is out for a morning run when she bumps into Ryan, who wastes no time in telling her that she needs to be paying Carla back now so that Carla can pay back her private health care. Daisy says that she's already doing what she can, and Ryan tells her it's not enough and her time is up. Either sell up or rob a bank. He doesn't give a shit. Daisy complains about Carla to Jenny, and then Daniel and then Kit show up keen to know the results of the DNA test. Daisy says the results aren't in and tells them all to suck her balls, and she fucks off.
Yes.
To the back, Daniel comes in to apologise and tell her how much he's worried about her and her womanly hormones. Daisy explains how everything is getting on top of her and the baby is just gilding the lily. Drink driver Daniel, remarkably, starts hitting on her at this point, telling her how great it'll be to have a kid and how that's one of the best things to happen, and he's been thinking of the future. Daisy reminds him...
Now that Bethany's left.
Daisy reminds him that he's with Bethany 5 episodes ago and asks for some space, which is more than he deserves. Daisy tells Jenny about this encounter and reckons maybe she should move on, thinking Daniel is better off without her. Jenny suddenly gets baby fever about the kid being Daniel's, so she calls Daniel into the back room later and essentially tells him that Daisy is thinking about leaving Weatherfield because she thinks that he isn't interested in her and that the baby is his. Daniel is cock-a-hoop at the idea.
Ugh.
And that is how we end this week's episodes.
What the hell, Jenny?
Of why? Again, why?
Why?
Why is she doing this?
Why? It's not her place. And it almost kind of feels like she thinks that this is going to keep Daisy there so she can have a grandbaby. But if she stopped to think about it, she'd acknowledge that, no, this is actually going to push her further away faster. And I will never see that grandbaby.
I'm just surprised that Jenny doesn't know how much of a car crash Daniel is with anybody. So why should she want someone close to her like Daisy to get back involved with something that didn't work out?
Right. Yeah. No, Sarah has the right idea, which is to treat Daniel horribly every time she gets a chance to because he's terrible. It's the one thing I agree with Sarah on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this will end horribly. And also, Daisy didn't tell Jenny what the results were.
No.
She said...
Jenny doesn't know.
Jenny has no idea. Jenny has no idea. So why is she saying this when she has no idea?
This makes me think that this makes it definitely not Daniel's.
Right. There's some wild speculation out there about this whole baby
I have
thing.
seen some hugely wild speculations that it might be Ryan's. But it's like, I don't think they've had it off recently, but part of the speculation is that Daisy's much further along than she thinks.
Right.
Dee terms of...
right, yes.
Who's been,
Dee Dee, who has conveniently disappeared from the show.
Yeah, she's been pregnant
for quite some time.
For like 18 months now.
It's true. She's an elephant.
She has a gestation period of a blue whale.
Yes.
But when Daisy looks at Daniel, does she see someone that she loves, or does she see that asshole drink driver that she ended up putting her own liberty and future on the line for by covering all that shit up?
Right.
Or does she see the guy that she had sex with on the couch of the back room of the Rovers when the door was unlocked?
Yeah.
And then as soon as it was over, he went back to Bethany.
Like, immediately.
Immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Is
I
it-
can't believe I did this to Bethany. Shut up.
Yeah. Bethany wasn't the only person you fucked that day. Let me tell you. The whole drink driving thing,
Seems to have been forgotten.
as I knew it would,
Just like completely forgotten.
the kind of lowest of the low.
You know, Abby was so upset because like it crashed into Seb's memorial garden thing. And you would think, especially since she's like hyper fixating on Seb's death, that maybe she would want to find the culprit. But that seems to have been so completely forgotten. And there's never going to be any comeuppance for Kit for covering up so many crimes on this show.
And he's still taking money for those t-shirts, probably.
Probably. Right, yeah, because he planted evidence in that van. No consequences whatsoever.
Nope. All
He
that
covered
died
for
with Joel, I
Shona.
guess.
He covered for Shona and crimes, covering for David and crimes, and covering for Daisy and crimes, while Daisy is covering for Daniel and crimes. It's like,
Yeah, everyone had someone on
So tired.
something else.
so tired. It's exhausting
And it
trying to
never
keep
really,
up.
I don't feel like it really came to the head that it looked like it was promising to do, because
No.
David was the only one that could have thrown a hand grenade into that whole thing and caused a huge amount of trauma and didn't do it. And that kind of amused me that as Daisy and Jenny were complaining about Carla, Jenny revealed that she paid Carla back £90 last week.
Right, yeah.
She's paying off that tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt,
Right.
£90 at a time.
I would have liked to have seen Carla's face.
Here's 90 quid. Have a night out.
Right.
Have a fancy meal.
Yikes.
It's on me. Yeah. The DNA thing it's got to come to a head. I presume that we're going to find out who the baby daddy
With
is.
the daddy.
I don't know. I don't want it to be. I really don't want it to be either of them. And I certainly don't want Daisy and Daniel to get together unless they're both leaving.
Right.
But then, no Daniel means nothing to complain about. Well,
Chesney.
it
Chesney's
means
still there.
fewer things to complain about, I
And
guess.
Ken's still there for the moment.
Fair enough. And a weird way to end the week on a storyline that only really existed on Wednesday this week. But that's what we got. And that was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen,
Yes.
this is a tough question. What was your moment of the week?
Abby and Roy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That was the one genuine thing the show did this week.
It was heartfelt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually came from the right place.
And character driven. And two characters being themselves and not widely out of character.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
the boring moment of the week.
Steven is air fryer. You're welcome.
Was it?
Yeah. Because, like, there's all this build up to it. And then whatever he fried looked like shriveled turds. And it's just. Wait,
It was Eccles remains that you
What
they
is-
air fried.
what is this even meant to be? What is this? How does this further along anything?
Well, there's paprika in it. Well,
Who puts paprika in an air fryer?
the
Put
wings.
it in your goulash.
No, the wings that I cook for Super Bowl,
You monster.
I put paprika and the turmeric and garlic salt on. And everyone seems to quite enjoy them, so don't look at me like that.
Anyway,
Anyway,
yes. Steven is air fryer.
fair enough. That's our...
Boring moment of
It was so boring you didn't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess. This all brings us on to your new favourite section of the show.
Yay!
This is where we take to Twitter to look at the poll that I put out after Wednesday's episode now, which has now run its course and we have the final results. People are letting us know what they thought of, like we needed to ask, what we thought of this week's show, and the results came in as follows. Yay, 19.4%, meh, 29.7%, and zzz, 51%. So a fairly resounding thumbs down for this week's show, which
Yes.
I can't really argue with.
That's true.
Chadderbox on Twitter says, truly abysmal and a very thinly veiled attempt from ITV to try and divert attention away from EastEnders' 40th birthday, which according to early ratings and the response on social media hasn't really worked.
No.
Lois says, one of the worst weeks ever. Don't think I'll even bother finishing tonight's episode. Man with the golden voice says, watching Corrie feels more and more like a chore than something to look forward to and enjoy.
Agreed.
Over the top plots, unlikable new characters, Billy depressing everyone, too many references to Harvey and prison. Even Dylan gets banged up next week. Meh, says Man with the golden voice. Long Hair Don't Care says, the acting is just horrible. Kiara and Zoppy Fitzgerald says, I loved the Sharknado films, so camp and ridiculous. Corrie has the same vibe, so I voted yay. You do you.
Yeah.
Kim Ford says, it's time for a sabbatical, then come back with new ideas, stories, and trim the dead wood. Less gangsters, police, hospital scenes, more humour, and the biggest thing of all is keep Debbie. I absolutely agree with you, keep Debbie.
Yes, keep Debbie.
And Lady Shufflebottom says, abysmal.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much to all of those for giving us their tuppence worth. Of course, we don't let those views influence our scores. So, Helen, what is your score out of 10 this week?
3.
I think I'm 3 as well.
Yeah. And if it weren't for Roy and Abby, it would be a 1.5.
It's a half point for Monday. It's a half point for Tuesday. And that's a couple of points for Wednesday. I think out of 3.
Yeah.
So points out of 3. That I think that's how I would distribute it. Yeah. It wasn't great.
Not good. Not good.
Kind of makes the prospect of talking about it for the best part of 2 hours feel definitely like a bit of a chore.
Yeah. But you know what? It's nice to have something to yell at.
Always. And it means that you're not yelling at me.
Or, everything else.
Yes. All right, let's wrap this one up then. This episode is brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J and Fiona B. Thank you ever so much, folks. We really appreciate it. If you've ever had it off on a stranger's couch, maybe have a word with yourself, but write in to tell us about it anyway. We are the talk of the street at gmail.com.
Or in a cab office.
And we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Or reach us the old-fashioned way, the talk of the street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street, or patreon.com/the talk of the street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes of your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
It was Michael Keaton week this week.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.